Thank you for being here tonight. I'm thinking you can tell we're on wild and crazy. Jackie Martin. Here we go. I call to order the public hearing on ordinances 543 and 544. Would you call the roll, please?
Council President Suzanne Souter.
President.
Councilperson Joseph Day.
Right.
Councilperson Newman Zubaka.
Here.
Councilperson Andrew Zelt.
Here.
Councilperson Brian Mattaway.
Here.
Also in attendance, Mayor Valerie Leary. City Treasurer Janet Carlin. City Building Official Jeff Bergstrom. City Solicitor Max Walton. That's it.
We're ready to hear from any of you. Or just back and forth between me, or just one of them? Okay, let's just, as you get to the podium, the ordinance you want to speak to, so, as usual, state your name and your address, and there's a sign-in sheet on the podium, please, fill that out as well. You have 3 minutes, there's a time here that you can include it, ordinance that you can where you go. So, who's first?
My name is Matt Alexander. I'm from Juniper Street. Thanks to each of you for your work on behalf of our town, both on this property and also. Regarding ordinance 543, I have a few questions I hope council will address in discussion tonight, or at least consider before voting. Before addressing the substance, I would note that the legalese language included in it and other recent ordinances sometimes seems like an exercise in CYA or cover your bases. Council's democratic power comes from the votes that put you there, not this corporate language you. The style to preempt legal laws and ordinances is understandable. The language has meaning, and phrases like the express finding, proposed changes outlined below enhance the health, safety, and welfare of the city should not be used as talismans. Findings should be justified. That said, your only question. First, what prompted and what justifies this finding regarding the health, safety, and welfare? The ordinance flatly states, quote, City Council finds that marijuana cultivation facilities and retail stores are not appropriate for any property. I want to know why. Why is retail use inappropriate for this particular intoxicant? Second, if marijuana is somehow just not an appropriate industry to welcome into Newcastle, why make an exception for testing and manufacturing? Are there current businesses for which this represents a carve-out? Is it fair for investors to be able to cash in on the growing pot industry while local users of marijuana products can never have a local store to go to? Third, the ordinance says, quote, no marijuana-related business shall be permitted. What is the threshold for considering a product or business to be, quote, marijuana-related? CBD products that contain small amounts of THC be affected? Will this affect stores in town currently selling pipes and other paraphernalia? Fourth, this isn't a question so much, but if the argument for this ordinance is one of the town character, I just find it relevant that hemp was almost certainly grown in colonial Newcastle, and may likely have been cultivated here until the early 1900s. Fifth, if the rationale for this ordinance is based purely on a public safety argument, what statistics or other info contributed to the key findings? Sixth, and last, if state law changes in the future to allow citizens to grow cannabis plants as they can in some other legalization states, this ordinance bar private citizens from growing for personal use. To be clear, I'm not for or against this ordinance, but I do find overtly officious pronouncements suspect, and would like some justification. I hope your discussion will be illuminated in that regard. Thank you all.
Anyone else on either ordinance?
Brad Rodriguez, 222 Chestnut Street. Um, Being a doctor and a retired doctor after also being involved in taking care of drug addiction for the last 6 years after my retirement, I feel, my opinion about this situation about marijuana is that most of the drug addicts I have seen over the last 6 years started with this particular substance. So, and eventually they ended up with all the possible narcotics, with this most dangerous fentanyl nowadays. So, as a physician, all I can say is it could be used in terminally ill people with cancer, with a lot of pain, and if it makes them feel better, that is the only way I feel it should be done. But several states have already authorized it. I thought of just giving my opinion, that's all. I think I am totally not supportive of getting marijuana authorized in this state. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jack Wynn, I live on Delaware Street. And the first thing I'd like to do is ask a question. How was it decided that cannabis, a cannabis related business was not something that belonged in, as my wife and I call it, in the village? What went into that decision? What is it about a cannabis related business that doesn't fit in my favorite village where I live?
Purpose of this ordinance. It's asserted that it isn't appropriate, either so that it is or that's the purpose of this.
Well, I'm just wondering, has anybody had any discussion on council or anybody else about?
We are not permitted to discuss it among ourselves outside of public meeting. That's why we're here tonight.
Okay, this is the first meeting I've come to, so I don't know all the protocols. But as a lifelong user of cannabis and a person who's been to cannabis dispensaries in 3 different states over the last 10 years, I've never seen a problem at any of the locations I ever went to. The businesses were always clean, well regulated, with security. At some of them, that there are a few of them where you have to get bonded even to go in the building. They've all been in neighborhoods that look just like any other neighborhoods. They're not dirty. Keep people from hanging around outside the places, just like there are at liquor stores or anywhere else in any building. And nowadays, when cannabis is legal in about half the country, including the state where I was born, California, where I've chosen to live for the last few decades, I'd just like to speak out and say that there's no reason for anybody to be afraid of having a business like this. It's a way businesses like this pay taxes, which helps the state. In California, they route some of the money, I believe, get education, and there are a few other places that don't. And arrangements could be made for that. It's not an evil thing. Thank you.
Good evening, council, fellow residents in our town of Newcastle. I did make an error, and I want to clarify it, and thank the council for correcting me on it. I had it backwards. I urge you to vote yes for ordinance 543. If for nothing else, despite people saying it's good, it's not harmful, it does cast a shadow on the image that tourist director, historical society, and everybody is trying to portray our city as. CBD oil is a derivative, it might be legal, but again, it should not be in the center of our city, should not be advertised as being in our city, and it can certainly be anywhere outside of our historic city of Newcastle. I can tell you for a fact that at least 15 to 20 people that I've spoken with or have seen the ordinance have asked about why isn't CBD oils included in it. It sure should be, and you as council people can add amendments to the acceptance of any ordinance. And I think it's very important for the image and for the character of our city, especially when you have people coming from other areas, buses, we have plenty of events, and the ship, Palmar Nickel coming in. I just think it's out of character for our city. And again, I urge you and ask you to amend the ordinance 543 and add CBD oil to be not sold in an existing business or any future businesses. You have the power to do it, and I urge you to do it. Thank you.
No?
Guess I'll be the only person to talk about the marijuana. Except I will make this remark. I find it kind of curious that we're talking about the banning marijuana. I just noticed we have a tattoo parlor opened up in town. So, I can always see where that, our image, but marijuana hurts. I don't really have anything on one or the other. I just found it curious with this ordinance about the Gateway project parking as regards apartments. As you know, is my big bugaboo that it seems like we're not allowed to discuss it, but I guess, we're gonna vote on passing an ordinance to make adjustments to the parking spaces in the apartments and the Gateway project that I guess that we're not allowed to talk about, but we still don't know how many we're gonna be and how much potential damage that's gonna do to the city. Then I noticed we have an ordinance coming up for discussion later on, also about the Gateway project, where you're talking about expanding, the area, expanding the Gateway. So does that mean even more apartments? I'm not gonna let go of this apartment thing, folks. So, anyway, I just found it curious that, something that we've had issues with before, with you saying you're not allowed to discuss it, but we're perfectly okay passing ordinances, making adjustments in parking spaces for these theoretical apartments that we're not allowed to discuss. That's what that's.
I'll just clarify, the resolution on the agenda tonight is not about the downtown gateway zone, it's about the downtown development district. It's a whole different issue and it's not effective, so we'll get to that when it comes up on this agenda.
I used to have a home 725 Palmer Street.
So, excuse me, just about one of these two ordinances?
Apparently, I missed this completely here.
Okay.
I just came off the counter, supposed to start at 7.
All right, comments for the regular meeting later, but this is strictly on these two ordinances. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Dr. Pavlin, you spoke at once, so let's make sure there's no one else. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Dave Casey. I live at East Third Street. And, the owner of Wheatley's Farm Stand Cafe. We opened in 2017. Best waffle these days. And, opened Wheatley's Pharmacy, in 2023. So, we sell CBD and some snacks, and soaps and some lotions and, cold drinks to people who are, walking through town. So, I just wanted to say a couple things. And before I do, I just wanted to clarify that CBD, when you mention marijuana specifically, the CBD is not, it's not what you're referring to. Is that correct? Okay. Then that would change my posture a little bit. But I want you to know, and don't take my word from it, please give this a Google, or come talk to me later. But everybody in this room has an endocannabinoid system in your body. It predates humanity. What this says is that humans and pre-humans have been using hemp and cannabis for longer than human beings have been on the planet. So if you don't have THC, CBD, and some of these terpenes in your system, it's kind of like driving a car without oil in it. So you are cannabinoid deficient. So I believe that, and it's not lost on me that we're in the senior center. Seniors are some of the people that need this most. You have chronic inflammation, probably all of it, back pain, fibromyalgia, maybe something worse like Alzheimer's. All this can be aided with an herb. So it's also not lost on me that we're in the heart of the chemical age here. Probably a lot of people that work for DuPont. You might have got something in the mail a couple years ago that said, our soil is rich in PFAS, cancer-causing agents from the damage done from the corporations that have ruled the state. So there are things available to you that can help other than pharmacological products. You can get help from plants, and you don't need to get high. CBD does not get you high. It's not psychoactive, but it can help with anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and debilitating diseases. And nobody should live in pain or with chronic anxiety, or you can leave any of that. You really should consider it. So I have a hard time dealing with ignorance in the age of information. Please give that a Google. Endocannabinoid system. Thanks.
Let's call, because it's after 7 o'clock, so if no one else has a comment on the ordinance about that, let's see.
My name is Carter Hill. First and foremost, Madam President, I want to make sure I heard correctly that the council is not allowed to discuss ordinances outside of the hearing.
Not the first call. No more than 2 of us, because then it's a quorum, it becomes illegal.
Gotcha. So I heard a recommendation, having the marijuana zoning ordinance is to maybe not focus on going after, sending cops after peaceful people to throw them in a cage, and maybe focus on simply how the town can conduct business. It's that alone seems to be a glaring issue that bringing ordinances in front of people. If the council can't even talk about them before they come to the people, who's deciding what language? I mean, you can spend hours going through amendments based on, 1 or 2 people's language. I've heard people say that allowing marijuana in the city would cast a shadow on the city, the historical society. Somebody else greatly pointed out, right? Hemp marijuana is no stranger to the imports. Right, if you want to talk about historical society, maybe have some exhibits about the founders around here who actually grew it. And to the point of zoning in general, the council, zoning in general, it is government having an arrogance about them that they should decide best how others should use their own property. So I ask you to vote no on the marijuana zoning ordinance.
All right, last call again. Comments on these two ordinances. As I said, there will be another public comment period on other issues. Of course, at the regular meeting. Any further? All right, Dr. Padman, you have something else to add?
Yes. Next, allow me to talk, maybe I can have my effect. That is, as an older physician in practice, including the drug addiction program over the last 6 years, 3 years in Delaware and 3 years in the state of Indiana, I think every person is a person, and every person is given a conscience by the Lord Almighty, and they make their own decision depending on how their values in life is all about. So all I am trying to say is being involved in the care of drug addiction, I feel, as I stated earlier, it started mostly with marijuana and it went into deeper and then heroin and cocaine and now fentanyl. I think the federal government spent more than $100 billion in the care of all these people with addiction. The incidence of homicide is more in the people who use this type of drug. With that said, all I am saying is, as an older physician and with values of being what the Lord gave me, like honesty, respect, responsibility, trust, caring and sharing, all I am saying is it is good. I have grandchildren, 6 of them. I hope they don't get into it. And all I am saying is I am anti-drug man. Thank you, old man, very old man.
I'd just like to review a couple of things that the good doctor said. I respect the doctor and his opinion, but studies have shown over the last 40 years, time and time again, that cannabis use had nothing to do with people that use harder drugs later on. Everybody that became a heroin addict probably ate carrots a lot when they were kids and drank milk. That doesn't mean that it led to anything else. Things are not connected just because people say that. So please consider that. Also, one more thing, because the doctor spoke as kind of a medical opinion. About 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with a bad disc, and it caused me great pain. For 3 years, I went 3 times a year and had a cortisone shot and had to take gabapentin. The gabapentin was making me very, very dizzy. My doctor asked me if I had ever considered medical marijuana. Gummies specifically, because they work better on the body. I wound up getting off the gabapentin, which made me very dizzy and also with for your liver and your body in general. And went strictly to cannabis, and I have not had that pain in a year and a half. So that's my test.
Okay.
Doctor, I think one of the best things about living in this country and this historical city is that we can respect other people's choices. There's plenty of places to drink yourself into a stupor in this town. If you wanna do that, you can. I used to work at Jessup's. So I've gotten lots of them drunk. Reality. So we can make choices, we can be adults, right? And I think it's also fair to say that marijuana and hemp is not toxic. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. It is bad for your liver, bad for your kidney, bad for your body. We still believe in free choice, and prohibition was already tried, by the way. And it was an abject failure. That's what gave birth to the mafia. You make something illegal that you can't wish it away. This is very footloose. You guys know that, right? To say, right after the state in which the Democratic majority, I'm sure the majority of you voted for, this is the will of the people, and the first thing that we do is to say, you know what, nope, let's put the brakes on that. I just think that that's kind of going against nature. And I would also press you to find any evidence that marijuana is the gateway drug that you're saying, because I went through the DARE program. I know the propaganda has been deep for 70 years or so, but the facts just aren't there. Cigarettes and alcohol is closely related to cocaine use, which might find your way into opiates use. But find me a heroin addict that's also looking for weed. Find me an alcoholic who wants to get high again. That's not, these aren't the same. You're not the same people. So again, this is just herb versus things that are toxic and bad for you. And also, people mentioned the tattoo shop and what we prefer in decorum around town. Like, I don't really love the neon sign at the very opposite end of 3rd Street, my own street. But I'm not gonna come up with an ordinance to say no neon signs in town. It's not my favorite. You know what? I'm insulted by Allstate Insurance in town. I think that that's kind of like, we could do better than that. If we're talking about what businesses we like, we need major corporations coming down. We might as well have McDonald's. Little, old new drive-through. We want to talk about what we're drinking like that way. But it's really not about that. We need to encourage businesses coming into town. Please open up. We have a couple ones that look like they're shuttered as soon as you're coming into town. Bring them in. And it's good for you. Thanks.
Finished now? Is this about the ordinances?
What it says.
No. It's about whether we should allow the sale of marijuana. Once it becomes legal by the state, which doesn't take effect until 2026.
Ninth grade, the gateway drug, basically 7 years after that, I must be searched. By the time I was 21 years old, I was damn near dead. All the rest of the drugs like that. It's very, very bad. The fact that she's stupid, it makes you lazy, affects your mind. And of course, it's tested. You have to read it. No. Bad idea. Forgive me, I'm talking now.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing. Okay. We'll move on.